This video is going to help you if you tend to read astrology blogs, you watch videos on astrology, and you get bogged down when they give you like a bad reading because Mercury is going retrograde or Saturn's going retrograde or now Jupiter's going retrograde. I'm going to be explaining why it's really important to not give too much power to any of these readings and why they don't necessarily mean what you think and how you can use them to make it a positive result for yourself regardless of what the outlook supposedly is. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started, I just want to let you know I'm doing a few breakthrough calls. There's a link pinned in the comment section below. What's a breakthrough call? Well, it's a 30-minute call where we get on Zoom and I just kind of help you go over your vision for your life with you. So we get into what you're looking to create, and then kind of we get into what's been blocking you, coming up, sabotaging you, or stopping you from either taking the action steps necessary or just allowing it to land vibrationally. And then I just help you troubleshoot some different options to look at to really get yourself in alignment with your highest vision. Okay, so I am somebody who has a history with kind of worst case scenarioing things. So like for years, I would go online and read an astrology blog or watch a video, and whatever was said, I would grab on to any potential negative thing and just kind of spin out on it. Now, who's guilty of doing this? And you don't even really need to grab onto the worst case scenario thing because there's just so much stuff all the time about how this is going retrograde, this is the problem, solar flares are hitting the planet now and it's gonna be bumpy for a couple more weeks, and then a couple more weeks it's gonna be bumpy for 3 more weeks after that, and then when that's over it's gonna be bumpy and rough for another 6 months. Like, you can find a reason all the time to spin yourself out. So what value do any of these things have? I don't know. It depends on your perception. It also depends on who you're reading. So what I want to convey in this video, because before I get into that, Saturn just went retrograde for a number of months, apparently, and I took that to be a bad thing, and the last few months have been incredibly difficult with whatever the eclipses are. I don't know astrology that well. But I've also cleared a lot of really deep stuff. Now, this seems to just be an ongoing pattern of this endless clearing that a lot of us who are, in our awakening journeys are going through. But then I recently today read about how Jupiter's now going retrograde. And so in my mind, I presume, based on my very limited knowledge of astrology, what that could mean. And this is very dangerous, and this is what I want to talk about. So for me, I know that Jupiter is the planet of expansion, blessings, and luck. So to me, if it's going retrograde, well, that must mean that my blessings, fortune, and luck are going to be in reverse, which I've never had much of that shit anyway. So if it's in reverse, that's definitely a problem. But is that what that means? I don't know. See, I'm making that up. And then I'll read blogs about Jupiter being in retrograde, and it will say something to the extent of it's time for a lot more introspection, self-reflection work. And I'm like, fuck you. That's all I do all day, every day. I don't need any more of that. But how many people do what I do? I don't know. How many of you do what I do? It's really, I don't want to say it's dangerous, but it's not healthy for a number of reasons. One, most people who are writing astrology blogs don't probably really know all that much stuff about astrology, and most people who write any kind of a blog don't really even put any time into writing the blog. If you just Google anything and you go with the first 10 blogs on Google and you open them up and read them, like 80% of the time, like 70% of them are the same blog, because the blogger just went online, found another blog, copy pasted like a whole bunch of paragraphs, put it into their blog just so they could have some content. So you're dealing with a lot of people who are just inferring shit. So if it's negative, I would highly advise you not to listen to it. And I have a major problem, and I'm ranting a little here, with astrologers who give bad forecasts. Because what they're doing is they're planting a seed of potential belief in somebody's mind, which they then can start to create. When the person didn't really even know what the truth of that astrology blog or spiritual forecast means anyway, because they don't have their whole chart. They don't, there's so many things we don't know, but we infer. So just consider that. There's always a reason why something could be a problem, and there's always a reason why something could be a blessing or a solution. It's up to us to find it. And that's my point. You have the power to create your life. And each astrology placement means something different for each person. It depends on where you're at. And it also depends on whether or not you're learning the lessons of whatever the astrology placement is. Because if you go inside and you learn the lessons, however negative the forecast is, could be an equal benefit. So be very careful not to absorb this information too deeply or at all. And if you do see a negative outlook, look into how true that is, how true it is for you, and if it is true because you know enough about yourself in astrology, what the positive polarity or expansion aspect of that outlook or potential or placement is. Like, I'll just give you an example. I have Saturn and Virgo in the 12th house, which is kind of like spiritual evolution with Hitler as your teacher, okay? So it's I read some blog somewhere where it was like if you have Saturn and Virgo in the 12th house, you're basically like a janitor in a haunted house. So you're like clearing your subconscious, clearing your energy, clearing every shadow layer of your ancestry, your soul, your history, all the time. And this is true. And I got really, really angry when I saw that, because I also know, Virgo is about, it's a perfectionist. That's the shadow aspect, is the shadow aspect of perfectionism. It's this like, and Saturn is discipline. Saturn can be very rigid and controlling and have lots of limitations, and the 12th house just brings everything in the depths to the surface. But what happened was I was guided to see how this was a good thing. And as I went through a few months, like kind of really delving into Saturn and Virgo and 12th house and what that placement meant, I made peace deeply with all of it. And I removed so much of the shadow aspects of Saturn and Virgo and the 12th house, and turned it into a gift. Because here's the gift of that. Saturn is, yes, it's about responsibility and discipline and limitation. But we tend to see limitation as a negative thing. We tend to see limitation as adversarial to our creativity, as adversarial to our expansion, to our blessings. It's not. If you have full-on creative power in every moment with no structure, you go nowhere. So when you see that it's about limitation, and then, like I had a bad perception of it, I was creating the bad perception of limitation. But as I learned that that limitation is actually a springboard for my creativity, all of a sudden, the whole energy shifted. And as I started to really embody the gift of Virgo, which is my constant desire for improvement, I realized that I can remove the aspect of perfectionism, the shadow aspect of perfectionism, which is very strongly linked to judgment, I don't have to be judgmental at all. I don't have to beat myself up. I don't have to have a problem with anything ever. I can love everything as it is. I can be grateful for things as they are. I can accept them as they are and also be like, hey, this is how we make this better and better and better and better and better. So my whole perception about that placement changed. And as my energy changes, my reality changes. So anytime you see these sort of outlooks, always look for what it's there to teach you. Just be very wary of who you listen to, but know that you have the power and there's always a gift, and a huge gift. Because the other thing to understand too is we're on a whole new timeline now where we have more power than we've ever had. And a lot of the people writing the blogs aren't fully in alignment with that. So you can change stuff like this quickly, drastically. Your power of belief, our power of belief is so strong now, which is why you want to not absorb the negative aspects and also imprint the positive onto it. The other thing I want to touch on real quickly is everywhere on Instagram, all I see with the spiritual posting is, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Every 3-4 weeks, don't fucking listen to that shit. It's life. It's life. During a spiritual transitional phase on Earth, there's always new energies coming in and challenges coming up and reasons it can be rough. The more you let go of that, the better it gets. And the better it gets, the better it gets. The darkness is part of the light. It feeds into the gift. Most people, including myself, who go online and post stuff, there are some people out there, and I like to consider myself one of them, who really do want to help people. And I'm definitely not the only person like that. There's a lot of people out there just doing it for their egos, but everybody pretty much is talking out loud to themselves. They're saying what they need to hear. And there's a lot of other people that need to hear that. So we all can learn from each other. But just know that. They're talking to themselves with those posts. And you just happen to be observing them talking to themselves. So is it for you? Maybe it's not. Maybe they're afraid it's going to continue to be rough. And every time it's going to get rough for a bunch of people, there's a whole bunch of people who succeed. Sometimes the rough times are the opportunities for the greatest expansions and successes. And the people with that mindset find that. Okay, thank you. I hope this helps somebody. Please let me know if you have any questions, revelations, breakthroughs in the comment section below. I always love to hear from everybody. Thank you so much to anyone who watched this video. I very much appreciate the support. I have a free energy clearing in the description below. If you'd like to download it, it definitely will help shift some of the patterns that maybe need to be released within you if they do. Other than that, I look forward to next time, and bye-bye.